So in this video, I'm not so much interested in the actual adding and subtracting of the fractions. It's more working on how to determine the lowest common denominator, which is something you need for adding and subtracting all fractions. So first thing that you need to do to determine the lowest common denominator is to factor your denominators completely. So if we look at the first fraction, 1 over 5x, well, there's really nothing to factor in that denominator, so we're just going to leave it as it is. In the second fraction, we have a common 3, and we also have an x squared that we can take out of each term. So we'll take the common factor out first, and we will be left with x minus 1. In the next fraction, there is a common factor of x cubed, so I'll take that out. But then I notice here that that's a trinomial that can be factors as well. So I'm just going to rewrite the first two fractions. And this trinomial factors into x minus 1 times x minus 1, which is x minus 1 squared, and that's the way you would want to write it for this process. After the denominators are completely factored, what we want to do is look at the coefficients, the numbers, and we're going to choose the least common multiple. So the least common multiple really is just the number. The lowest number of those two will divide into. So with 5 and 3, the lowest number they'll both divide into is 15. The next thing I need to do is look at the factors and look at unique factors and the powers on each of them. So if we look at the first term, we've got an x. Well, that's my first factor. It's unique. I haven't seen one yet. But if I go on to the second fraction, I've got an x squared. Well, we already had an x, so that's not really unique. It just happens to have a power of 2. In this term, x minus 1, well, we haven't had an x minus 1 yet, so this is a unique factor. Moving on to the last fraction, x cubed. Well, x isn't really a unique factor, it just happens to be to the power of 3. And we also have x minus 1. Well, we had that before, so that's not necessarily unique, but what's unique about it is that it's to the power of 2. So what we want is the highest power of each unique factor. So between the x squared, and the x cubed, the factor really is x, it's just the powers are different. We want to use x cubed. And with x minus 1 and x minus 1 squared, what we want to take is the x minus 1 squared. So the lowest common denominator is going to be that LCM, lowest common multiplier, multiplied by each unique factor raised to the highest power. So for us, our LCD is going to be 15 multiplied by each unique factor raised to its highest power. So we're going to take the x cubed only, that's x raised to the power of 3. And we're going to take x minus 1 squared. So that's the unique factor of x minus 1 raised to its highest power. So this is the lowest common denominator. And that is the one that we want to use for calculations involving adding and subtracting algebraic fractions. The worst thing you can do is to just take everything and multiply it together and call that the LCD. It may be a common denominator, but it's not the lowest.